Next on the agenda, we'll explore the relationship between online reputation and improved dealer outcomes that directly affect financial health. In other words, sales. Leading this presentation is Amit Aggarwal, the Senior Director of Digital Solutions at J.D. Power. Amit focuses on translating research study results into actionable recommendations for clients. With him is Fawaz, Senior Director of Worldwide Automotive for Reputation.com. Ali carries a passion for making innovative waves in the customer's shopping experience. He has led work for brands such as Ford, Chevrolet, and Cadillac to elevate their online reputation. Amit and Ali will be taking audience questions afterwards, so text away, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Amit Aggarwal and Ali Fawaz.
Thank you. Thank you, Gino. So it's really weird to put my picture up when I'm standing right in front of you and you can see who I am. But we thought that it would be useful since there's two of us and you would know that that's Ali and I'm Amit. That's it. That was the joke. So as Gino mentioned, you can text in speaker questions to us, and then Gino will come up afterwards and moderate that. So please go ahead and do so. So I've been with J.D. Power for quite a while, and I've spent quite a bit of time looking at the consumer journey and the steps that they take and the things that they like and don't like when they're shopping for a new vehicle. And that really gives us a lot of insight into where they encounter pain and where they have problems. Now, one of the things that we've tracked for quite a while is consideration. And what we've found, particularly over the last 5 years, is that new vehicle buyers are considering fewer vehicles along the way, and they're actually considering fewer dealerships as well. And so 5 years ago, on average, they were considering 3.1 dealerships, and now that's down to 2.4. Gives you less opportunity, right? If you can have this great experience in the showroom, you can have all these things set up well, you can have trained your people well, but if they don't make it through your door, then that doesn't mean anything. And so when we talk about landscape, it's what's the landscape in which your rooftop is operating. And we used to think, okay, we went digital, you have to have a website, okay, that expands. But the problem is, they're not visiting your website as much as they used to either. So 5 years ago, and this is through a survey, and this is what people are reporting they're doing, they visited about 11 websites on average while they were shopping. Now that's down to fewer than 9. And that squeeze is coming at the dealership level. It kind of tracks along with what we were saying before about them visiting fewer dealerships. They're still visiting the OEM sites at almost the same rate. They still need to do the research about the vehicles, figure out what's right for them, figure out the features and building the vehicle. They're still visiting third-party sites at nearly the same rate, understanding pricing and ratings on the vehicles and getting those kinds of reviews. But the dealership website visitation has gone from 4 to 2.4. So again, coming back to that, there's your rooftop, there's your digital presence as exemplified by the website, and you're not getting as much traffic as you were in the past. And in fact, almost half of buyers, they spend that time doing that research, but they don't make contact with the dealership that they buy from until they walk in the door. So I mean, I always like to let that kind of sink in. So all that work that we do, and we target them, and we retarget them, and we are trying to engage in all these different ways and promoting and marketing, and yet half the time, when they walk in, they're an up, and there's nothing you can do about that because you haven't seen or heard from them before. So it becomes really important to influence them along the way and to make sure that you're having an impact on them beyond just that floor experience and beyond the website. And so when we take a look at the kinds of experiences that you provide, the kind of channels through which you can interact with your customers and your future customers, I know this is kind of our assessment of it. You may disagree here and there. But we would regard the store experience as being mature. We'd regard phone similarly. Leads, doing that for 20 years. So while there's room for improvement, I would call that a pretty mature channel. And same thing with search. With 15 plus years of experience, the websites are optimized for search. There's a lot of good marketing programs around it, and dealers spend money on it. Okay, awesome. But then you come down to the next level, And I talked about the website. And while dealership websites are absolutely better than they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they still don't measure up to the kinds of online experiences that we have pretty much everywhere else. Right? You can pull out your phone and all of us can find 5 apps that we love, that we're totally engaged with, and then you go visit your dealership website, and it feels like a time warp. Right? It feels like something that you were dealing with a few years ago. And that's not to place blame. There are things about the industry and the process and the ecosystem which that develops that causes that experience to lag. So we regard that as improving. Digital retailing, it's obviously in its infancy, we're not going to talk about that. But what we really wanted to focus on is reputation, because that is part of that kind of larger outer circle, where there's a tremendous amount of conversation that happens about your location that you can completely be ignorant of, or you can engage with and try to influence along the way. But it's immature. I mean, that really in the first stages of that. I was saying 15 years for search, 20 years for leads, decades for your floor experience. Reputation, we're talking a few years at most. 5 years ago, if you wanted to get information or ratings about a dealership, you had to go find a website like DealerRater or Cars.com and dig into it and find it. Now, you look for the location on your phone, whether it's a restaurant or a dealership, you find the location and right next to it the reviews are shown right there. Ali's going to talk a lot about that. So you're playing in this game whether you want to or not, and it's easier than ever for consumers to figure that stuff out. And just having the right experience and doing all that work at your store doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the kind of reviews that you want. So it's not hard to find good reviews online. And we have 2 examples here from 2 Ford dealerships. Basically, thank you, they were professional, it was very warm, I'm bringing my car back, I'm going to tell all my friends about it. And I love to see that the owner responds, thank you, we appreciate it. We're glad to have your business. Right, but you have to work for it. It doesn't just happen. Ali's going to talk to us more about how you work for it.
Yes, I am. So, thanks, Amit. Thanks for having me here. But before we talk about the role of reputation, first you've got to understand the entire playing field, right? Think about your domain as a dealer. And when I say your domain, I don't mean your website domain. I mean the areas that Amit had mentioned that you thrive in, right? It's those in-store visits. It's those leads. It's those phone calls. It's even the paid search that you do. Those are areas that you've done for so long and done them so well, right? But there's something else that's happening. Before that customer gets to that point, before that customer calls you, before they get to your dealership, before they submit that lead, and you have to understand what's happening in that sphere. That's the area where, for a while, you thought you didn't have any influence there, but you actually do. And you need to take more control of that space, right? So what we're going to talk about today is how you get found as a dealership, right? So you're going to have to understand, are you being found? Are you showing up on those social media channels? Are you showing up on the review channels? Are you showing up on maps? And then when you do show up, and if you are found, are they choosing you? What criteria are they using to choose you? How do you look? What are your star ratings? And then finally, we'll talk about your reach. How far are you casting that net to be able to pull these people in so that they do call your dealership, so that they do walk into your dealership, so that they submit the lead, all right? So we know today when people are doing search, 70% of Android and iPhone users favor Google Maps. That's right, 70% favor Google Maps for search. If you think about it, that's because most people are on the go now, right? You've got your phone in hand, that's where search is happening, and they're about to hop in their car. Might as well just do a search through Google Maps. You've all done it. In fact, 82% of smartphone shoppers conduct near-me searches. So we know that local search is the key here. That's how they're searching. So what happens when your customer actually sees you, right? So what are customers doing when they see you? Reputation is everywhere. It's creepy like that. But seriously, it's everywhere and driving visibility and choice. Now, if you look at the screen behind me, you'll see these are all the different platforms or avenues that they can actually find you when they're doing these local searches. Whether it's on a smartphone, it pulls up the local 3-pack. And if you look closely, you'll see star ratings right there in that 3-pack. if you did a search on your desktop, it's going to pull in that knowledge panel on the right-hand stack that Google shows. That knowledge panel pulls in your Google reviews right there. We're going to skip the center for a second and go right to Facebook. Even if you go to social media, even Facebook got into the game of reviews, so you can't avoid them. In fact, again, we talked about search on Maps, on Google Maps. To the far right, you'll see Google Maps pulls in your reviews. Reviews are unavoidable. They're there. They're following you, right? Now, in the middle, you'll see that's your Google AdWords. Now have the ability to pull in reviews. That's Google seller ratings. So Google now allows you to pull in verified reviews. Now, these are reviews of customers who have had a sale or a service experience at your dealership. And they're verified because they're coming from a trusted partner who will feed these in and allow it to power your Google seller ratings, to put star ratings with your search ad. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a moment. So what do? Right? You know that you've got, so what do? You have to request reviews. You've got to put a system in place that allows you to start asking all of your customers, whether it's sales or service, and in fact, service, 75% of all reviews for a dealership are service related. So make sure you're asking your customers for those reviews. Once you collect those reviews, now you need to distribute them accordingly. And by that I mean, if you look at the different colors that are charted out for you, you've got the green. Well, that's the paid search, right? So all dealers are spending money in paid search. We know you're spending a lot of money there. How do you make those more effective? Well, that's through Google seller ratings. By adding those star ratings, Google says you can increase your click-through rate by as much as 10%. In fact, you can also decrease your cost per click by about 10% as well. So it's free money for you right there. Now, how to do that, you have to make sure that you're sending a subset of your reviews or your surveys to those as verified reviews. Now, if you look at the yellow portion, that yellow portion on that same screen, that's your knowledge panel. The knowledge panel is showing Google reviews. So you also want to make sure you're sending some of your reviews, asking your customers, leave a review here. Now, it doesn't stop there. If you look below, you'll see that that knowledge panel is pulling in Facebook, Car Gurus, and Cars.com. So are you sending and distributing reviews there as well? You should be. Finally, you've got the organic search. And in organic search here, you'll see it's pulling in Edmunds. OK, let's account for Edmunds as well. Because these are all the different places that your customers are searching and want to find you. If you're not there, you're not playing in those spaces, you're going to be overlooked. So now that you've got your bases covered, right? Your bases are covered, wonderful. 9 out of the top 10 most influential local SEO ranking factors are reviews. That's why we're emphasizing this so much. So managing reviews at what scale? You've collected all these reviews. You're syndicating requests for reviews. You've got to make sure you're actually managing the reviews. So if you're a dealer group and you have 100 locations, with 100 locations, let's say you have 3 categories. Maybe it's, you've got the showroom, you've got service, you have a collision center. OK, then you've got 20 different review channels, whether it's your social media channels, Facebook, Google My Business, maybe it's Cars.com, Edmunds, DealerRater, so on and so forth. Let's say you captured 50 reviews across each of those. That's 3,000 points of branding for your locations. Think about it that way. Not only that, but you need to manage your listings so that way you appear on maps, right? OK, not a big deal. Hop online, type in your dealership's name, pop in your phone number, put in your URL for your website, and make sure you give them hours of operation. OK, 10 minutes, not a big deal. Oh, wait, forgot. I have the service department. Let me make sure to account for service because maybe you have a different landing page experience for service. Or definitely you have different hours, right? Last thing you want to do is give them wrong hours. Your customer shows up to service, and you guys are closed. That's the surest way to lose a customer. So make sure you're updating all this information. OK, not a big deal. Took you 20 minutes. Your listings are set, but they're not yet. Did you account for Google, Facebook, Bing? Repeat the process over and over again. And this is just one location, folks. Imagine you were an OEM, 2,700 locations. That's 234,000 data points that need to be fixed in a 12-month period. That's quite a bit, right? we did the math, and essentially it comes out to 4,800 full-time employee days to manage this manually. So ultimately, it's not something that can be done individually. There needs to be help, and you need to have a platform that's going to help do that. So managing listings, at scale, once you've established this process and you put the system in place, you've created a superstructure that now you can distribute your reviews across that structure. And the reason why you want to do that is because of this. All right? This is the local 3-pack. This is what happens when you do a near-me search. The reason why it's called the local pack, and some even call it the 3-pack, is because you get 3 locations that are going to pop up. It's pretty important to be in those 3 locations, right? Because once you are in those 3 locations, you're 2 times as likely to get views, and you're 2 times as likely to get actions. Now, Google defines an action as a click to your website, a click to call, or a click for driving directions. How do you like that for low funnel, right? And how do you make sure you're there? Well, the more reviews you have, the more likely you're going to pop up in those top 3.
So I get the fun part. Excuse me. Ali covered this already, right? He talked about requesting reviews. You also need to monitor them. He talked about that. And what we want to get into is how you respond to them. Because that's, again, engaging the customer. And it's something that you weren't able to do before. You weren't able to impact the word of mouth once they left your store. You weren't able to measure it. You weren't able to watch it. And when you do so, as he pointed out, you generate more reviews and you generate better reviews. And we found a couple of examples, and this was not hard to find. And so this is Lehigh Valley Honda, 4.5 stars, so doing all right. And there's, I'm going to have to go over here to read some of the text, but this was somebody who originally gave 1 star, horrible online shopping, and rants about it. The owner responds, please accept our sincerest apologies. They acknowledge it, they apologize. If you clicked on the more, they offer to take it offline. Often they'll give you their phone number and work to resolve it. And what they've done in this case is that customer upgraded from 1 star to 3. Okay, that's nice. That helps. But what's also happened is now the dealership has an opportunity to turn that shopper into a customer because they responded and because they followed those steps. And sometimes it seems mechanical. Right? Thank you for your review. Thank you for your review. Thank you for your review. But you can still have personality, and you can still do this the right way. So this one, again, same dealership, a review by Joe Blow. Okay, again, a rant. We read rants online all the time. Response from the owner, hello, Mr. Blow. We're very sorry to hear of your dissatisfaction. We don't have a record of a Joe Blow, but if you'd like to call us, please call, if you'd like to contact us, call this number. I'd be happy to deal with it. There's personality there. Right? And again, they're being responsive. They're giving that customer an opportunity to come back and say, here's how you can help me. We love it. We love to see that. And you're not going to turn all 1 stars into 5 stars or 3 stars. But you give yourself an opportunity to, and you're showing other prospective customers that you have some level of responsiveness that they may not find for others. And that's really key here. Now, it's nice to have the reputation. It's nice to have the ratings. But ultimately, we want to sell more cars. We want to make more money selling cars. We want to develop lifetime customers. And so Ali's going to close out with that because we said we're going to talk to you about what it's worth. We've talked to you about why it's important so far. Right.
And you want to be able to quantify it. And guess what? We have a way to quantify it. It's called your reputation score. Right? It's how your dealership is found, chosen, and experienced. In fact, we pioneered this in 2006. And we've got 23 patents on the reputation score. In fact, we have over 17,000 dealerships and dealerships and rental car locations across the globe. Now, when we establish a baseline of a score, we're able now to measure and quantify locations that are actively managing their online reputation versus those that are not. So what we found was locations that had a system in place that was actively managing those locations saw a 40% faster growth in their reputation score as opposed to those locations that were not actively managing that. Now, we took it 1 step further because I know you guys love to hear ROI, right? So we looked at locations over a 6-month period across the board, and we identified those locations that actually improved reputation score by 150 points, saw a 6% lift in sales volume. Now, the other side of the spectrum, we also looked at locations that were not actively managing their reputation, and they saw a decrease of 150 points in their reputation score. Well, those locations saw about a 13% drop in sales volume. That's a 19% swing. That's pretty big. So normally at this point, I would actually drop the mic, but they actually put a mic on my lapel, so it's not going to work. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you guys for having me and open it up to questions.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I got a couple questions here coming in. Should a dealership respond to every review?
You should try to respond to every review, whether it's negative or positive. You want to acknowledge your customer, even if they're positive reviews. I hear a lot from dealers that, well, I don't need to respond to positive reviews because they're happy. There's nothing to do there. In fact, that's an advocate for your dealership. Acknowledge them, and they're going to become a greater advocate for you. They'll continue singing your praises. So I would encourage you to do so.
Okay. If I want my dealership to get into the online reputation management space, what do I do first? What do I budget for this?
So you have to start. I'm going to stand up as well, because why can you stand and not me? So I would start with the blocking and tackling, really. It starts with making sure you're asking your customers for reviews. If you're not asking for those reviews, what we call the silent majority are the happy customers that are out there that aren't leaving a review. So you have to actually ask them, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, would you mind leaving me a review? That's one of the basics in blocking and tackling.
Dealerships already know how to ask for reviews. They already know how to ask these customers to leave them a CSI rating that helps them out. Right? This is just integrating a new measurement into that mentality.
What do you think is the worst kind of a response a dealer can give in a review?
So we listed 4 steps.
Right.
Right? Acknowledge, apologize, take it offline, resolve. It's a really easy playbook. If you spent enough time looking at reviews, which maybe you do because you like it, or maybe you do it like me because you find it really interesting, sometimes people get into fights with their customers. Right? They get very defensive. And those are the kinds of things you can't do, because then what you're saying is, well, maybe you win this fight and you feel a little bit better about yourself, but now it's out there for the rest of time.
And you never win those kind of arguments, do you?
There's no winning that.
That's why we say take it offline. Don't have the conversation
That's
online.
true, yeah.
Yep.
Just take it offline.
All right. Can you share a story of a dealership with a horrible reputation and how you helped it improve online and in-store?
There are many stories like this where a dealership starts out, perhaps they have a really low online reputation score, and when we look, we're able to quickly identify why, and the whys usually are the same ones. It's not a matter always of bad reviews, although that can be a factor, and you need to be able to manage to that. But the other factor here is it's not enough reviews, and the distribution of those reviews is not enough. So what we find is the last review you had was 3 weeks ago. Well, in the world of Google, it's what have you done lately, right? How many reviews have you had in the last week? So if your last review was 3 weeks ago, you're quickly going to fall to the bottom. And so the key here is consistently capturing more reviews. And so what we find is those locations that are not actively requesting reviews have low volume of reviews. That tends to make them kind of hide. As soon as we activate a process where there's a system in place at that store asking those reviews, not only do they get more reviews, they're better reviews, and their star ratings start to increase as well. It's not a process that happens overnight. You typically aren't going to see a change in a week or 2 or a month. It's a 6-month to a year process before you start seeing that tick back up. Because if you think about it, it took you years to earn that bad rating that you might have. It's going to take you a little bit of time to build that back up again.
Okay. What makes dealers resistant to taking these steps or to doing this kind of online
process?
Yeah. Just the process.
It's just making sure that there's a system put in place and somebody's got the responsibility. I know you guys have you wear way too many hats. And you've got to get out of the habit of saying, well, so-and-so is doing our reviews. She's good with social media. I've seen her Facebook page, so she manages our reviews. That's not a process. You've got to have an actual process, dedicated an individual. That's all their job is. So at the end of the month, when you've got to hit those sales numbers, you're not pulling that individual off to go sell vehicles. That person is dedicated just to manage online reputation.
And this just follows the history that we've seen, right? Online leads used to just be distributed among your salespeople. Okay, we need to have a dedicated person to do that. We used to not have a consistent digital presence or somebody responsible for that. Someone did it in their spare time. My nephew did it, whatever. Right? So it's just the professionalization of all the different channels and expanding that to include reputation and reviews.
Absolutely, exactly. This is the next evolution of that.
All right, so maybe a lot of people's eyes started to roll back in their head when you said something about now you're going to have to hire somebody else to do this job specifically.
So you can hire somebody else, or you can actually put a platform in place that will do it all for you for a much lower cost than hiring a resource.
Okay. Any recommendations about how to respond to people who weaponize reviews to try and force a dealer to acquiesce to an unreasonable demand? That was a big word, acquiesce. I used that.
I've actually, when I was preparing for this, I was really spending quite a bit of time. And I saw some really effective dealers come back with facts to say, you came in at this time and you made this demand. You wanted the car for $5,000 less than MSRP. I'm sorry, we can't do that and be able to stay in business. If you'd like to come back and give us the opportunity to sell you a car that might fit your needs at your price point, I'd be happy to do so. Now, are they trying to win with that customer? No. What they're trying to show is that they're reasonable and to put that person's review in context.
So it's being reasonable, it's building the trust, and it's being transparent.
It's transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency.
Huge transparency.
Because we know that there are people who do that as consumers. We expect that.
All right.
So we provide the context.
How do you help dealers increase their review counts other than having the sales team ask for reviews after sales or service?
Well, there are solutions like Reputation.com that will actually integrate with your dealership's DMS program. So as soon as your dealership has a sale or a service experience, within 24 hours, it's firing off a request for that customer to leave a review. And then there's a sophisticated algorithm that's identifying where do you need that review distributed. Should it go to Google? Should it go to Cars.com, Edmunds? Where should we distribute those? And so there are mechanisms that would actually make that and take that responsibility off of your staff.
Okay. Gentlemen, I think that's it for now. Let's hear it for Amit Aggarwal and Ali Fawaz. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to put this back.